This bonus video is a continuation of our Saturday video, which was our conversation with Harper. This video has no intermission, so hunker down and be ready for an interesting talk.
Welcome back. How was your break? Hopefully it was as good as ours.
Did you do the things?
Are you breathing? I hope.
Are you breathing? Are you okay? I
If
can't
you're
call
not,
anyone
tell us
for
in
you.
the room.
Yeah,
Knock 3
leave
times.
a comment.
Leave a comment if
Are
you're
you
not
still breathing?
Leave a comment if you stopped breathing during the break. From the other side.
Good news, the break was not that long for them.
No, it's like a 5-second
They
break.
just helped. Okay.
It's a small intermission.
All right,
Short
it's all right. Whew.
So yeah, we should probably introduce Harper officially.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes,
We kind of skipped over.
we did. We got very into it, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So we're gonna kind of work backwards now.
Yeah.
Do the questioning.
Do the questioning.
Do the questioning.
Okay. Well,
okay.
Harper, how do we even intro this really here?
Without asking him who he is, if he's alive.
I can answer if I'm alive or not.
Okay.
What are this?
What are this?
What are
What are this?
What are
Who
this?
are you?
Wait,
Kazoo Kid.
who are you?
Let's start on that one. I'm Harper Wall. A quick plug. Add.com to that, and you find my website.
There you
It's
go.
not good. But it is, if you ever want to learn meditation from me, is where you find me. I'm in my early 30s. I have type 1 diabetes. That's why I guess you can see this thing. This is actually the first time I've ever worn this thing on my arm.
Really?
Yeah, I tried it out because I met a barista who was wearing it on their arm, and I feel like I accidentally made her feel bad.
Oh,
And so I felt real guilty about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I should try it out, see what it's like, and see, because a lot of my issues with it came from other people.
yeah.
Giving me crap about these wires.
Ah, yeah.
Because these go everywhere, and they
Yeah.
trail off of me. They get caught and stuff, and then it rips right out of you.
Yep.
Real surprising when your pancreas rips out of you. But I use a Medtronic 670, I think. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, 670G, which because of this thing, technically makes me a cyborg.
Yeah.
So if
Damn
you
it,
are
she's ahead of
diabetic
us.
and you have a sensor of any kind, Dexcom, whatever, you're technically a cyborg, as long as it makes dosage decisions for you.
Right.
Because then it replaces a natural cycle in the body,
That's
which is
interesting.
technically
Yeah.
a cyborg. I'm still very excited about
That's
that.
really cool. How recent is that?
A doctor tricked me into getting
Oh, no.
around. It's one of the few times I was okay with that.
Okay.
Around, I think it's maybe 3 or 4 years, and then I actually called for a warranty issue 3 days
Oh, no.
before the warranty ran out,
Oh, shit.
Ooh.
and got a brand new one.
Nice.
So they have a newer one
Mm-hmm.
that I might get, but my concern is that it communicates with your phone.
Oh,
And
yeah.
They seem
You
to
don't want
not
that, like,
understand
data,
how
yeah.
someone could ransom you
Right.
doing that. And I'm like, so you just want no
No,
diabetics in
thank you.
politics ever? Because
Right.
like all they'd have to do is log on while you're asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You'd be dead.
Hack your shit. Clone
So,
your shit.
It is cool though. It is fantastic compared to not having the information.
Mm-hmm.
The main change for me is that this tells me, I'll show y'all. I don't know if they'll see it up on the screen if I show it to
Oh,
them.
nice. Okay.
But so that chart,
wow.
every 5 minutes, this thing sends a average of my interstitial fluid glucose levels that it takes, I think, every 5 seconds. They have an updated
wow.
version of this, and that's the reason I'm considering moving up, is that
Yeah.
this thing, it made it where I can more or less play my diabetes like a video game.
Right.
Whereas before I did a blood test, 4 or 5 times a day, which is like walking through your day and opening your eyes for 4 or 5 times.
Right.
but with no like walking stick.
Right.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell
You have
you.
no idea what's going on in between.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was just before I turned 6.
Okay.
So I have like a few memories of what food is like without having to take medication for it. Nowadays, I usually describe it the kind of the pithy, quick way when I describe it to people is like food is a poison for me, and I take another poison to balance it out.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I take too much of either poison, I die, which happens fairly often. I've resuscitated around 7 times
Wow.
in my
Wow.
life. And those I count as no one can argue with me about whether I've died.
Right.
Right.
There's other times where I define it as if no one had intervened, I would have died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I personally count that. So let us know in the comments if you do. I just really
What
wanted
qualifies
to
as
argue
death?
over my death, please.
That's like me being really flippant about the not breathing thing.
Right.
And just being like, yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
breathe and it was fine. I don't know.
Yeah. I know the EMT times because when they wake you up after that, they tell you
Oh, really?
you're alive again.
Right.
And
That's
I
what you come
asked an
back to.
EMT this week, is this normal?
That's so
Is this
weird.
normal? But you just, you're like, and there's a professional, right in front of you. One time it was just a muscle-strapped bodybuilder.
Nice.
Yeah, this Irish dude. And he was big about being Irish. I'm not just typesetting him. That was a big part of his personality.
Right.
And the other EMT was a bodybuilder.
Jesus.
And he was this big black dude with like this. He waxed his head, so it was super shiny. And man, they said I beat the crap out of him. They said, "Yeah, man, I want to fight you." That was. You go at it. Because I had lost consciousness. And I was flailing around on the floor. And apparently when I saw the needle, I punched one right in the side of the neck.
Oh, shit.
And then they were like, oh, you got to hold his arms down.
Pin him.
Pin him. Yeah. Which, thank goodness they were big enough. Because at that point, I was a big dude.
Right.
I'm 6'4". Y'all can't see that. But it makes it harder for small EMTs. So I've had like that happens. And it mostly happened when I was a kid. Strangely, I've lived alone for a long time and not had it happen. But I have had close calls
Right.
where like your vision
Is
just
shrinking.
gets smaller
Yeah.
and smaller and smaller, and you're like, pretty sure that has sugar in it. Oh, kitty cat. Sorry, there's a kitty cat meowing, and I'm a sucker for kitty cats.
He's trying to break into the room.
Just let him in.
He's upset
so sweet.
that it's locked. He won't.
You just let him in. He's going to knock harder and harder until that door opens.
Let him come in. He'll knock some stuff down. It'll be cute.
Good lord.
It'll be great for views. No.
Yeah.
Buddy.
Cat can.
Cats. Internet cat.
Now for
welcome.
kids.
Are you obsessed with bread? No. I have a cat named Cashew
Nice.
that is obsessed with bread, which isn't normal.
Right.
Cats normally
Oh.
don't like bread.
Yeah.
Cashew likes bread.
Show.
Now
baby.
she wants to leave.
He's
That's-
seen the room.
Yeah.
Show.
Is this your cat? He, she.
He.
Okay.
He's named Pepper in Japanese.
Ah,
Koshio.
nice.
And I just call him Show because I like to.
And we have another cat that never comes out when people are over that's pure white, and she's named Salt.
Oh,
we have
nice.
salt
I
and
like
pepper.
that. Yeah.
Shio.
I found out that Kashu means singer. And the name's fitting.
Oh no.
Cashew
Vocal.
does love to sing. He sings the lamentations that he has finished his food. That is
Thanking you.
no.
Oh, it's gone.
He comes
That's-
and he
It's gone now. Fix
and
it.
then he comes and he looks at me like
Right.
and he just makes sad noises. And I'm like, I just fed you better food than I eat.
Yeah.
So, like, you get the nice stuff. You're gonna be good because he has a tummy issue, so he has to
Aw.
have the nice stuff. But oh, kitty, now I'm gonna be too distracted. I'm sorry. But I keep thinking about the kitty cat. What was I talking? I was introducing my diabetes.
Yes.
Oh, and just
It hasn't happened a lot since you've been alone.
Yeah,
But you
not
had,
too
like,
much.
close calls.
Yeah, I had a close call last October. October 2020.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I had a real close call where I went on a walk. And I don't know if anyone else has experienced this with just kind of the watching the rest of the world who doesn't deal with chronic illness, how they have dealt with COVID seemed real weird.
Yeah.
It felt, it's like I have a tube inside me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Masks aren't that hard.
Right. Grow up.
Yeah, so however you feel about that, they still aren't hard to wear. Like that was the point. I was like, why? Oh yes. Oh yes.
I'm
For
leaving all
those
of
of
this
you
in.
listening, Kosho has now made himself the absolute center of attention by jumping on top of the table
And laying down.
because he's a
So-
whore.
Now I have something to do. Just
New
I was
fidget.
introducing myself.
New
Y'all can do
fidget.
y'all's podcast. I'm here. I found what I'm doing the rest of the. No, I'm from Alabama. I don't always sound like it, so I'll give y'all a taste of what it sounds like when I'm in Alabama. I sound a little bit more like this. I'm putting it on a bit more.
Yeah.
But it's easier to communicate if you do the Alabama accent when you're in Alabama. They understand you better.
Yes.
And I love the nature there. I don't live there anymore. Let's probably leave it at that.
Yeah.
But it is actually the fourth most biodiverse state
Oh.
in the union.
Didn't know that.
Wow.
So yeah, I grew up in what's called a temperate rainforest.
Yep.
So I am used to it raining. A short rain is 3 days long.
Yeah.
A good solid rain is heavy, strong for a week.
Wow.
I went through a number of hurricanes. They're less scary in person unless a tornado comes down on your house.
Right.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. So there's. We also had Mardi Gras. So I grew up doing. My
Sucker.
school gave you a week off
Wow.
for Mardi Gras every year because no one was going to show up.
Right.
That's
They were all
funny.
going to the parades. People didn't show up the week before because Mardi Gras is longer than a week. And it was Mobile, Alabama. So it was actually the birthplace of Mardi Gras in America.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And then
cool.
it moved to Louisiana more. So that was really cool getting to see all that stuff, grow up with the parades and the marching bands and the friendly, protective packs of drag queens
Yeah.
who would wander around and keep you safe. That was interesting. That's a real thing. That's not a myth. Like that stuff happens.
Wow.
And they were fantastic. It protected me from a whole lot of muggings, actually. Miss Venus. God, I miss Miss Venus. She was good. But then I went to Florida. I got a psychology degree with a philosophy minor. I took my time. I was only in classes for 5 years.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it took me a little bit longer to actually get the degree.
I also took my time, so
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
We chronically ill people have fewer spoons than normal people who are well. It's hard to do stuff.
That would cause me problems because I'd forget entire classes.
Mm.
So one of the things that happens with, at least for me, oh, now the kitty cat's like,
Oh, my God.
look at me, I'm so
Kosho.
beautiful. Kosho. Stop. You're very cute. And people will like it, but don't attack that. I can tell. I can
like
tell
the
there's
fluffy
the
thing
urge
on
to
top.
bat it.
Yeah, he thinks
Looks
that's a
fabulous.
different cat up there.
Oh, he does.
He's like, hey, who's that?
Who's that? See, this is gonna be like you always say, the episodes where there's this dumb stuff going on. They're like the cat episode with that diabetic who was weird.
The weird diabetic cat episode.
Yeah, the one who started talking about Alabama and then quickly moved on. I went to
Crinkling.
crinkling. This sound?
Oh, okay.
That's me
I
playing.
thought
with,
it was the
I have a
cat because my
lotus
brain
seed
was
mala
like,
that I got.
My mala's over there. It broke. I'm very sad.
yeah, mine's
hear
broken
that.
at my house too.
I lost one in India and bought this one because of it. I was like, yeah, souvenir.
Right.
There you go.
I left it hanging on a small branch outside of a public restroom. Because never, if you go to India, do not use the public restrooms. Just find somewhere else. Just trust me. Don't ask why. Just don't. Just don't. Don't do it. Whatever nightmare you've ever had about a bathroom, it is very small compared to the ones there. Even the people I was with were like, "Are you sure you could just go by the side of the road?" And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "I don't think you want to, unless you have to."
That's an experience. And
Yeah. Except for the ones the taxi drivers used. Those were fine.
okay.
Those were okay.
They knew
But
the right ones.
every few minutes they fill with taxi drivers. Just suddenly. You're like alone.
Just an
and then,
influx of
where do they all come from? What?
They move through like a herd.
Yeah. Because they have
There you
these
go.
little, they call them rickshaws.
Yeah.
But they're not like pedicabs or anything. It's just like they got a motor from like a lawnmower and then built a little go-kart around it and painted it the right colors. Zzz. They can't go up hills very well.
Wow.
Like we had to put our feet
Get
out and
like push, yeah.
to get it up the hill, and the guy didn't even know where he was going. It was great. I loved it. You could go across a city the size of New York City for like $1.80
Wow.
in USD.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun. I got in trouble for wasting money. So you can't show off this much. I am not. You want to see me show off? I will. Let's see how many boxes of desserts I can buy and give away. Which isn't good for a diabetic.
Until someone mugs you.
Yeah, no, they love Americans. They love Americans in India. Yeah. The way I termed it was the American dream is well and alive in India. Because there's a lot of people there who just, they're working on things. The industry is changing so much. There's a lot of room for people to develop skills in a way that is actually very valuable to them. So it was neat. It was
It's like
interesting.
the opposite of brain drain. It's happening in other places.
Well, I don't know about that. But a lot
Not
of
like
the
an
people,
influx, but like
yeah. Well,
the surplus of.
they tend to leave, and a lot of people come to America and they'll get the education, but they tend to go back.
Yeah.
They tend to return instead of our issues with people leaving.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you mean I
Lots
can
of
make a lot of
that.
money and have free healthcare?
Lots of that.
Sounds good.
Amazing.
Moved. Done. Got the job. It's easy. I'm on a list of all the things that people need all over the world. Like engineers. Man.
Oh yeah.
Electrical engineers
Everywhere.
apparently are needed in every country on earth.
Everywhere.
If New Zealand will let you move in, no questions asked, as an electrical engineer,
Oh man.
everybody wants you.
Here, you want to draw a picture?
Because she was like, you're going to scratch me? Because that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
I'm here for multiple scratchings. Just all the love. Man to incarnate as a cat.
Love now, please do.
Just
Until he sees himself on camera again and decides to start shit.
he's like, I'm going to go fight with me again.
Yup.
But so I got my psychology degree and a minor in philosophy with a focus on philosophy of mind and philosophy of science,
Nice.
which is not a popular one. It's kind of my jam.
Right.
I like taboo stuff. I like the things that people are usually uncomfortable learning deep amounts about themselves on. And so, yeah, finished up with that. Went to Alabama briefly, left, and came up here.
Yeah.
I actually thought there was going to be, and there might be, but it got sidetracked by the same thing everyone's life got sidetracked by.
Yeah.
But because of the legal changes with psilocybin in Denver, I am certain, even though I'm not part of the research, I am certain a ton of labs are researching the effects of psilocybin in counseling.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's some signs that if done,
PTSD especially, yeah.
yeah, that's medication-resistant depression, which is something I have, and PTSD. Those are the two areas that, well, actually, ketamine already does a ton for PTSD.
Yes.
Yeah. But there's been some research, and they need to do it more. They need to do a lot more of it to show like how do we actually make this happen routinely. But there's been some that has shown some people will take a dose of psilocybin with therapists usually two. Interestingly, some of the methodology comes from like the 70s and stuff of just like how people got high,
Right.
Oh yeah.
which I think is fascinating. So they'll have like a male and a female therapist there to guide you through your trip, and I'm like, huh, and a few of the people showed a complete absence of symptoms for months afterwards, which isn't very lucrative. So I wonder how that will go.
Yeah.
But the people researching it, they're the adults that got through the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So they're all about giving that information out for free.
Right.
So I'm sure if they figure out a way in research, they won't be behind a paywall.
No.
But it'll be interesting to see how does that progress. But that was part of the reason I came to Denver, is I thought, okay, I know I can probably find at the very least like a lab tech job or something like that.
Yeah.
And then instead I ended up teaching English to kids online.
Oh, nice.
It was nice, but we got some political rules after a few months. And I was like, ooh, I can't. I'm not gonna teach your kids propaganda, guys.
Ah, yes.
I remember the one that was the strangest was right after we got a list of words we were not allowed to say or discuss. Things like Hong Kong. Couldn't say that word, or French. Couldn't have any maps behind you on your walls.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, when I say it got weird, I mean
What?
it.
Yeah.
And so it's been weird for me because I've had, there's lots of people in America who get real nervous about China.
Yeah.
And like, I get that because like they are very clear about wanting to go to war.
Yeah.
Like they don't. If you listen to their news until the whole recent thing with Russia, until that happened, they're like, hell yeah, we'll defeat y'all. Like, and then they're like. Trade is a good idea.
Yeah.
But leading up to that, they cracked down on education.
Weird.
They eventually banned tutoring.
That's
Not entirely. There's some
really
certain
intense.
amount, but they banned most foreign tutors.
wow.
So domestic tutors were fine, but there was limits on when children can go online, how long they could go online, because all the internet goes through their system.
Yep.
So if you were under a certain age and you logged on, you weren't supposed to be on. It just doesn't log on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild. It was a weird time, and I got to see some of the stuff firsthand. Mm-hmm. Like there were some teachers where after the ban, but before it had been enforced, where like their students they had taught English came on and was like, "You're a criminal. You're a dangerous person. I don't want to learn from you." Stuff like that.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was real strange. I didn't get people like that. But the strangest thing I got was like a week or two after they put out this lesson, and I looked to see, did other people get this lesson all at the same time too, about how trustworthy the mainstream media was, about how they always do their research well, about how untrustworthy people were who disagreed with it.
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, I've read about propaganda before.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because I've also, it's, what was it? There's German textbooks for high school that talk about American propaganda.
Yeah.
That explain,
Oh, wow.
you
Yeah,
know,
we have a
Americans
lot of
believe this
propaganda.
about the world because their government tells them.
Exactly.
So it's not like it's like, oh, it's just, it's interesting to see how another culture approaches it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it did end my job because I have pretty like strict ethical rules about what I'll do. I mean, like I said, I've been resuscitated a couple of times. Life is too short for me to break my rules.
Right. Right.
It's like, what
Don't
are you going to take from me?
compromise on
Kill
something,
me?
yeah.
It already happened. It's like, good luck. One of the things that I didn't mention that is kind of strange, and it's not the case now, is I grew up in a mansion. Like an
Nice.
actual mansion.
Like a mansion.
Like an elevator mansion.
Interesting.
I like that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, elevator mansion.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
It was only 2 stories,
Right, but still elevator.
but still open air elevator.
Yeah.
I used to play with my kittens in it.
Really?
Yeah, because you could take it down halfway into this hallway and then stop it, and then you were just in this like levitating platform.
Nice.
And I was just, and the kittens couldn't get away.
Right.
And so I just played with the kittens, and they would like wrestle with each other, and it was a fun way of being a little kid.
Yeah.
But they also didn't necessarily, not the kittens, the folks who owned the mansion didn't particularly like my very strong ethical codes. They weren't necessarily a big fan of that either.
Right.
But everyone deals with their own challenges, so
True.
I figured out odd things from having had a serious illness in a mostly otherwise healthy, quite healthy family up
Yeah.
until that point. So it was an odd separation between the world they saw and the world I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, growing up in the South, I didn't tell anybody I meditated for 7 or 8 years,
Oh, I bet.
other than like real
It
close
would have been
friends.
like
Keep it-
bad
yeah.
hippie shit.
Yeah. Well, I joke that I was a closeted meditator. So, but I also got unique views on that stuff because my granddad didn't care what you did with your life as long as you paid your bills.
Right.
And so, because of that, he was the only person who would rent space to LGBT bars and social clubs.
Yeah.
And so they all rented from us,
Right.
which made Mardi Gras fantastic.
my
oh my God, the best place to do Mardi Gras.
Right.
It was so much fun. Nacho cheese lady. Nacho cheese lady would eat nacho cheese with her finger and just do whatever to get it off.
Yep, that's weird.
And then she would point, and then she would get more and point at people. Nacho cheese. Nacho cheese. Nacho cheese. And she would do that to people. The best part was sometimes dudes would be drunk enough to take that as a reason that a fight was starting.
Oh my God.
And I watched her just destroy a dude once. She's like, just turned to a stranger, could you hold my cheese? And they're like, and she just handed it, and she's like, sure. And she just destroyed him.
Oh my God.
It was like, yeah, nacho cheese. Yeah. Yep. Not my cheese either.
Oh my God.
It was fantastic. It was the best. I liked Miss Venus more. Yeah. Miss Venus was better.
Fair.
Yeah.
Nacho cheese lady sounds dangerous.
Yeah.
In certain areas.
She was a little, I think she
It's a
was
little
more
too dad
unstable.
joke for me.
Yeah.
Just hurts my soul just a little bit.
Oh, you'll be fine.
Just a little bit.
Well, at least you're not trying
I
to
think
take
if
her
I met
cheese.
her in
Yeah.
person, I would have to be like, nope.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
bye.
turn away.
Or-
That's what worked. Because if
Can't
you
do it,
engaged
no.
her, she was like, oh, this is what I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what she wanted. She wanted you to engage her.
I
But
don't want to.
that was neat. That building, you could get up to the roofs of all the buildings. And so as a kid, I get up onto the roofs of this whole like block and just wander around,
Yeah.
Wow.
yell at people. That's what I did. I yelled at people
Just
and
yell
I
at
throw bouncy balls into the street. And because they just bounce everywhere.
Right.
And I like, hee hee hee. That's like, that's like my form of rebellion as a
gonna say,
teenager.
I could totally
was
see
like
that being like, got 'em.
meditating and throwing bouncy balls and making sure I didn't hit anyone. And like, I was like,
Hers was
You really showed them.
water balloons
I really
off of
showed
the roof.
them.
Yeah.
by developing my mind and just being able. So that's the other thing that's probably the most core thing, other than having type 1 diabetes, is that around the age of 11 I started meditating, and I was very lucky, and I happened upon a meditation that had all the components that were needed for actually like traditional 2,000-year-old meditation.
Right.
I didn't know that. I wanted to blow stuff up like Goku. That was the purpose. And the website I went to, which was a black background with bright green text.
Oh yeah.
So I knew it was legit
Exactly.
because it was the color of ki. So I knew this is real.
I love that reasoning.
Yeah, I just
That is
sat
the
there.
best.
Yeah, I saw the page started loading. This is back in the early days of internet. Page started loading, and when I saw that green text, I was like, this is real.
Mm-hmm.
okay. And then I waited another 30 minutes for the page to finish loading, the text-only page. Just
One line at a
just listening to the internet try to reconnect. One time, the first time I installed an MMO, it was Final Fantasy 11,
Yeah.
I think, and it took 3.5 days
Oh my god.
to install.
Oof.
And that was after the CDs.
Yeah.
That was the updates.
The update. Yep.
Yeah. But I got this meditation. It was a visualization walking through a forest. And, I was like an 11-year-old. I had no responsibility. Well, I had diabetes. But other than the life-ending responsibility of carrying my own safety around,
Yeah.
I had nothing to do.
Nothing besides that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything else is like, my parents do this, they do that.
Yeah.
I lived in a nice house, but it was in a really bad part of town. So I couldn't play outside much. Because the homeless people lived in the yard. And whenever my dad chased them off, I got angry at him.
Right.
I was like, don't chase them off. They need a place to sleep. He's like, but they're in our yard. And I was like, well, tell them they have rules to follow,
Right.
but don't do it again or I'll stop eating. And he was like, okay. So we had polite homeless people who lived in our yard, and I never met them because that was part of the rules.
Right.
My dad was like, you got to be gone. By the time it's light, my child can never see you. I don't know if that was part of the rules, but I imagine him saying something like that.
Like it could be.
Yeah, I can see him giving them some really specific one. Which he was scary, so I'm sure whatever he said, they were like, yeah. No one in the backyard. But sorry, I was like, I want to play with the kitty cat. I want to go on meditation. I got real into meditation, and because I was, that young, and then in middle school, nothing to do. I didn't do homework, so I just had a personal feeling that they only got to tell me what to do while I was there, which you might disagree with. But I somehow skimmed by.
No, like I literally, I've told my kids, like, I know what you do outside of this building. Don't do it here. Be smarter than that.
Yeah, here's where we practice
Don't
doing it
do
better.
dumb
Right.
shit in this building.
Yeah, in this building.
Well, and I like just be smarter than that. This is the one place we're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
That's it. I
That's
know you
all.
do it out there.
Sure.
I'm not stupid,
Yeah.
but you can't do it here.
It's like, you're my responsibility here.
And there's babies here, so be smarter.
I'm
Yeah.
paid to make you better at this stuff. So I'm going to do my job.
Literally it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, be good or be good at it. And you're not good at it, so
Yeah. Improve one of them. So between those two things of not doing homework and having a lot of free time because of that, I started meditating like up to 4 or 5 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had a lot of success with it, which lots of people don't think of meditation as something you can be successful at. You can.
Like
I assure
absolutely
you.
can.
You know if you're successful at it. But because I was doing visualization, it affected like my mind's eye, like the way I imagined things, and the way I dreamed, and the way I read books, and all these things I had no idea was changing at like 11.
Yeah.
When your personality kind of begins to form its foundations before you just wreck shit as a teenager to
Yeah.
figure out just where the limits, how far does this personality go? Then you start crying. You're like, that was the limit.
I found it.
I found it. For me, that was getting to the ability where, for a while, I eventually developed a video game addiction. That set me back for like 3 years, and then I got back into it. I was still meditating, but I wasn't having success.
Oh.
Yeah, because I had to shine and grind. Get on that. I had to get on World of Warcraft.
Recently done that.
Oh no! But I was always playing the auction house.
Oh, okay.
My whole game,
Yeah.
the whole game to me was how could I make enough gold to buy out the auction house of items that were being price gouged
Yeah.
and then resell them cheaper.
Right.
So like I loved this idea of just being like the auction house regulator.
Nice.
And
Keeping down inflation.
Yeah.
Yeah, keeping down inflation because it had ruined a lot of crafting in Final Fantasy XI. I started playing WoW because it was less addictive.
Well.
Yeah. And so then I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to do the same thing I did on Final Fantasy. Turns out I had a friend doing the exact opposite.
Oh my god.
Yeah. We didn't know each other yet. We met in college, and he will probably watch this, so he'll be like, "It's me," because every now and then he would describe me as I was his good twin.
Right.
Like he was the evil twin, and I was the good twin.
It balance each other out.
Yeah, because we would end up being interested in similar stuff. But I would always be doing like this virtuous good do-gooder stuff,
Right.
and he would be scamming people.
Oh my god.
But he did scam scammers,
Okay.
so he made up for it by also scamming them.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, but I thought that was funny because I had seen him before.
Right.
Yeah, but just in the chat, and I was like, that's a scam. but yeah, that whole meditation journey. By the time I was a teenager, and then I got into college, at that point, I was able to sit down and just make everything disappear. Not like in a colloquial sense, not like in a relaxed sense.
Right.
I mean disappear. I close my eyes, body isn't there, world isn't there. My thoughts were still there. Consciousness was still around. But it was an interesting state to get into. And I got into some really wild states in high school during study hall. And then, so during all this time, very quietly into myself, because once again, Alabama, I started studying comparative religion,
Right.
starting with some very, 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 very dry books written in the late 1800s. Deep sigh. They were so dry. Just 1,000-page book.
Right.
And not a page of it fun. And I just kept reading them because I wanted to know. I don't know how. I like, where did that discipline go? But into WoW, that's where I went. Into gaming that stock. But I eventually I ended up reading a whole bunch and practicing a whole bunch of yoga. Once again, I didn't do any of this stuff with people. So when I found out what yoga studio yoga was like, I was just horrified.
Right.
They didn't include the meditation I was into, the dhyan and dharan. They didn't include anything about the ethics that you were supposed to do before the stretching. They have like a whole set of ethical rules that went with it. But I understand that the hatha yoga, the stuff that came and got popular in America, I can see like they started out with that knowing that Americans were very into physical development.
Yeah.
And so that's why, the first, I think it was not Krishnamurti. I can't remember the main dude. There's one named Paramahansa Yogananda, and he brought over the more meditative tradition.
Right.
And then the other guy did meditation tradition as well, because to them, they were yogis. So
Yeah.
they were doing the whole thing. Most of what I learned was from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which is just an ancient text about yoga, the different stages in it, the physical development, the breath development, the turning off of the senses. That's where I got the first idea to try doing that purposefully. Mm-hmm. And then I started reading, after a long stage of doing pretty intense meditative yoga, rather than, I did like 5 positions, but I'd hold each of them for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
10-minute headstands,
Damn.
10-minute shoulder stands, 10-minute twists,
Yeah.
all that stuff for a long, long time, made me very limber. And then I ended up getting into learning about Greco-Egyptian mysticism.
Because you do.
Because,
It's
the way
the
a young
natural
man
holes.
from Alabama does.
Right.
He gets real into yoga, and he gets real into Greco-Egyptian mysticism, learns a whole bunch about Dionysos, starts saying all the names weird because you say them in ancient Greek.
Right.
Like, Athenaea. Most people don't call Athena that.
No.
But that's ancient Greek compared to modern Greek.
Uh-huh.
You're still saying it in Greek. You're just saying it the way it would probably have been said. Like Zeus. I like that.
Yeah.
Instead of Zeus.
Right.
Zeus.
Zeus.
That's
Yeah.
fun, Zeus. But after that, I started reading translations of early texts and commentaries on Taoism, mostly the Southern school of Taoism, which was largely known for longevity, because one of the main promulgators of that school didn't start meditating or doing any of that stuff till he was 70.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, well, I would like to live longer now that I've found something that's good. And so he did a whole lot of stuff that they termed longevity practices. And that's where we get a lot, not entirely, but that's a big chunk of where we get things like the health, like the idea of the health benefits of Tai Chi.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tai Chi originally was for kicking ass.
Yeah.
It was just slow so that beginners could get into it.
Mm-hmm.
I have met people who do it for that purpose, and I
Yeah.
assure you, they can still kick some ass. I learned that from an 80-something-year-old lady.
Oh my god.
Nice.
Yeah, who she could just throw you on the floor. She's great.
That just
She's
makes it sound like
fantastic.
you're out there fighting grandmas.
Well, this was a
you're
college
like,
class.
This is my
Oh, okay,
my
yeah.
hobby. I
fighting
find them on the street and I'm like, hey,
Fight
you.
a grandma. They're like, you know how
Let's
to fight?
fight.
And they're like, yes. They're like, you want to go? And they're
Let's go.
She puts down her
yeah.
groceries.
puts down her. No, those are weapons.
Mm-hmm.
She starts spinning. It's like, no, I wasn't ready for bullet hell. Grocery starts shooting out one of the ones, just in just a perfect geometrical pattern. This is why I got so good at limbo, which I did actually get great at limbo. I don't know why. I just got obsessed with it at one point,
Right.
and I was tall, so I was like, this is something no one expects. But I could never get past my shins. I got long shins, and I just couldn't get the angles right.
Damn my long shins.
Yeah. There's 3 extra inches of height in my shins somewhere.
Like a literal
Right.
Longshanks.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's why I look normal height when I sit down. Yeah, it is actually, because I try to figure that out for ages.
That's really
When I'm sitting with people, I look like I'm their height, and then I stand up. It's because my torso and everything is fine. It's just them shins. They're just like, no.
It just kept going.
Yeah. They knew I had a lot of places to go. All that walking backwards.
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
right.
Was that on camera when I said that? So I walk backwards for 10 minutes a day. And those of you who are real into YouTube will probably know where I got that from.
Yes.
But, because he's gotten more popular. But, it's great. It feels nice. Helps my knees. But, where was I going? Taoism. So I read 70 or 80 Taoist texts. Each of these things I inundated myself with.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person where I get into it and I'm like, oh, so I need to read this many books? Okay.
All of it.
All of it.
I'm going to learn all.
So I bought the Taoist classics, translated by Thomas Cleary. He's my favorite translator for Taoist texts. Not that there's other translators who are great. I liked, I believe Eknath Aswaran translated. I know he translated the Upanishads and the Dhammapada, but I don't know. I think he translated the Tao Te Ching at one point.
Okay.
But there's my favorite version of the Tao Te Ching is actually whatever the Barnes and Noble funded one was. That's my favorite one. I
Really?
actually don't like Thomas Cleary's translation of that one book because he
Interesting.
translates
Okay.
the word Tao. And if you're reading a Taoist text, if it says the way instead of Tao, I would choose a different one. Because so the first line of the Tao Te Ching is the Tao that can be named is not the true Tao.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it helps for us not to think of it, oh, it means path. No, it doesn't.
Right.
It's like
It
the
is its own
distinction.
thing.
Yeah. Apparently that sentence has a lot of humor in it. 5 of the words in it are Tao. Or something like that,
Right.
where it's just you can barely tell what's going on, because one of the distinctions between Taoist philosophy and Western philosophy is that we are very analytical. We're trying to break things down into either functional parts or into definable objects.
Yeah.
And to quote Liu Yiming, a prolific Taoist commentator, only the dregs can be written down or taught.
Okay.
This was
Yeah.
a guy who wrote copious books. Mm-hmm. And yet, his position on the written stuff is that it was mostly trash. Like, so they had a position that if you didn't practice, if you weren't practicing Taoist meditation or some other Taoist method, which can get real weird, like standing in a pot that's put in of bricks over a cesspool.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's meant to teach you
Wow.
detachment from pleasant smells.
Oh.
Wow.
And boy, I bet it works.
Yeah.
I'm never doing it. But if you want to read about that stuff, that I think I got that right. If I didn't, sorry. I believe that comes from Opening the Dragon Gate, which is also written by Thomas Cleary, or
Nice.
translated by Thomas Cleary.
Yeah. So how did these two kind of convergent paths color one another? The
Which
experience of
convergence?
kind of growing up with a chronic, life-threatening condition and your exploration of these topics.
Well, I mean, in the early days, it starts the way you might imagine. I wanted a cure.
Yep.
Talking about a cure for type 1 diabetes was real big in the 90s and the early 2000s before it became so amazingly lucrative. And now they have stopped
Keep
talking
you
about it
sick.
as much.
For
Right.
money.
Yeah. Once there was a bunch of type 2 diabetics, that is the group that I have noticed seem to. Type 1 diabetics have to have their medicine to live. They don't have to take advantage of us. They just do.
Yeah.
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 Like, they don't have to wait, like, in a very real sense, I'm alive because I make between $30,000 and $40,000 a year for certain medical supply companies. And that's the only reason.
Yeah.
If they couldn't make money off of it, they just wouldn't give me insulin.
Right.
Yep.
You know that real distinctly because when they went to Congress and they got blessed out, somehow they had a generic within a week.
Yep.
And I can tell y'all know, medicine doesn't work that way.
Yeah, no.
You don't
Well,
just
it
have a
doesn't.
working one
Yeah.
in a week.
It's
So,
like EpiPens. Like there's
yeah.
like it's the dirtiest.
How much were an
Ugh.
EpiPen when it was
They got up in
getting
the,
real bad?
like thousands, I thought. I
Yeah.
could be totally wrong.
I know my insulin pen, we use something that looks very similar, and so people often thought it was an EpiPen.
Yeah.
Insulin pens, and now they've gotten way fancier. But that's what I used before my doctor. My doctor was like, "We'll see if your insurance covers a pump," and a pump showed up at my door.
That's
Wow.
After I told him repeatedly I would not use a pump, but then it was
It's
there.
like, do it. It's here.
And I was
Yeah.
like, "I'll try it." Nearly killed me.
Yeah.
And I figured out how it worked, and then I was like, "Okay, maybe he should have trained me a little more before sending it to me."
He was like, we can't have any more conversations or he will shut it down. Just ship it.
Just ship it.
Just
yeah.
ship it. We'll deal with the rest later.
He was a real fast moving guy. He always thought I was an engineer. And I was like, nah, man, I'm at school for psychology. And he was like, oh, why do you care about your numbers then? And I was like, I'm going to, in my brain, I was like, I'm going to shake you until you cry. You're an adult man who's seen people die in front of you.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you cry. Like, that's like how I felt. But I didn't say any of that. I can be very confrontational with doctors, but I try to be very polite unless they do something that's actually dangerous for me.
Right.
Then I'm mean. I don't know. It was a good idea. I'm glad he did it. But for me, it's mostly the CGM. That's the main thing I love.
Yeah.
Getting to see all that data to work with instead of just wondering what my body is doing.
Yeah, that's why I want to get a Fitbit or something to track. I need to track my heart
It
rate.
doesn't matter.
I just want the numbers though.
You can.
I mean, it
do a
is
lot of
nice
stuff
to
with
be able
heart
to
rate.
be like,
yeah.
am I dying? Or is it just a muscle spasm? Oh, look, we're dying.
Yeah.
That is useful. But beyond that, like, there's no rhyme or reason to fucking anything. At all.
You got to
ever.
graph it out for like months and then find the trends.
There's a pattern
you have to
over
keep a
like
journal.
4
Yeah,
years.
That's the main detail, and I missed that. I didn't realize that like I kept my track of notes and stuff like that. But when I started, just like if there was a really high blood sugar that I didn't understand, usually I know what it's from. I ate stuff,
Yeah.
and I didn't do insulin. What do you know? So my body's like, we're gonna burn it from the inside, which is what happens. That's the fun thing. Is that your body does actually start burning itself from the inside because your blood becomes acidic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it feels that way
crazy.
too.
Oh God.
It is wild. Yeah, but so the way I'll tell you the parallel. Well, actually, the parallel works the best up until that point. So that is a good spot to say that I wanted a cure, and while my dad would be so upset if he sees this. Just because he'd be like, what, you were meditating? You hear all these books I've read. Either way, it's still secret from him until probably now. But my family was very superstitious.
Okay.
So I was taught from a very young age, demons are real.
Yeah.
Angels are real.
Yeah.
All of this stuff isn't kind of real somewhere else. It's around. You have to be prepared for it. That was kind of the attitude.
Yeah.
You know, as a military dad, or the military on both sides of the family, as far back as the eye can see.
Right.
And I know, because I've been to all of their houses.
Oh no.
Because my mom really liked genealogy. And road trips, and the road trips were great. Got to see a lot of not funerals, graveyards. I tell a bunch of graveyards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are cool. I like them. But I wanted to cure. And then when I was in middle school, there's more like 3 parallels with it. Is that one, I wanted this cure.
Yeah.
As far as the diabetes was concerned. But one of the benefits, because I ended up running into a meditation that was not from a legit source, hence it teaching me also how to do a Kamehameha,
Right.
which I'm not going to do because I don't want to destroy anything.
Right. And well, and your life force gets drained. You don't need that.
Yeah, that's why I got into the spirit bomb.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
with the spirit bomb, the universe helps you destroy something.
We can all partake. Even.
Yeah,
We could be like,
exactly.
Here,
Y'all
have
could-
energy.
You could be like, yeah, destroy Frieza. So, sometimes...
No, it's my energy, and
Mine.
I'm keeping it.
But Frieza.
But Frieza, this isn't even his final form.
Don't care. I'm just gonna retreat because I don't care. Just off screen.
But
Goodbye.
I also noticed that I seem to be able to create rather nice states of bliss. And my life, other than the diabetes, there's a lot of complicated stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
There was a golden age in my life until my grandfather passed away. And then as far as I can tell, every single family that has anything to inherit, unless they've sat down and figured it out long ahead of time,
Yeah,
there's always problems. There's always someone who has a problem with this person or that person, and that really took over life. So,
You
what
good?
do we need?
I did a dumb, and it's not 3
Medicine
o'clock. So I'm like 45 minutes late.
Uh-oh.
So I'm like, why can I feel tingling in weird places?
She didn't do the break stuff.
Because
she did.
Lyrica. Well, because we did break before it was 3 o'clock.
Oh, okay. Well, your
my
alarm
alarm
didn't.
went off
Oh,
in
I
here, and I
see.
had
Oh,
to
that's
like
what the
snooze it
alarm was.
really fast.
Oh, that's what.
But it's
It's fine.
we're fixing it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just no one makes mistakes.
Judge her quickly and harshly.
So,
Keep it to yourself.
yeah, no medication shaming. as a granola. As she granolas.
I'm not
it.
kidding. I do my first one, and it's 12 pills,
Oh, wow.
and I do it all in one go.
Yeah.
Because I don't value my own existence.
Yes, you do.
If you didn't value your existence, you
No,
wouldn't take
no,
them.
no, 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 no. I'm
Like,
already
let me
here.
have this.
I'm already here, and it sucks. So I'm gonna like make it suck a little less.
So that was my mood about
is, like,
life.
Okay.
I feel like it's a party that like you got dropped off to, and then your friend that you were with just like
left you.
and you're like,
That's all parties for me.
fuck, I'm already
Right.
here.
Yeah.
So I
would
guess I'm
just-
at a party now
I
until
would
I'm
just
not at a
wander
party
into
anymore.
Parties.
Fuck.
I was the person in the corner who, like, the people who were too high and the people who were too drunk, they would all congregate near me and just listen to me talk about weird stuff. And I, like, upped the ante on the weird
Right.
real hard. Because I knew the drunk people wouldn't remember. I knew the high people did not know what was going on.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Catch
now we're all
every,
going to
like, third
meditate.
phrase.
And they'd be like, what? I was like, close your eyes. And they're like,
I have the spins.
what is spin? So I was like, touch your nose. And I'm like, whoa. It was like, you just need a physical contact. Hold something cold. You gotta get something you can contact that's not your inner ear.
Yeah.
Yeah, grounding. And where was I going with all that stuff? Life being terrible. So I kind of felt that way about a lot of things at that point. People were trying to convince me there was a reason for me to finish high school. I didn't know what they were talking about. I did it anyway. But
It's just like, casually. I did it. It's fine.
I don't wanna. So it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't all terrible. You know, it's like I had the means to take care of things. In my I didn't, but people around me
Right.
had the means to take care of things. I had a good doctor. I wasn't worried about running out of insulin back then. Things have changed, and I refer to it as the golden age of my life. My granddad was alive. My mom understands taxes and economics just amazingly well. And so she like reads tax codes for fun sometimes. And so, you know, we got lots of benefits from her being like, hey, this is great, great estate planning. And so I got to go to a nicer school and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Cousin of mine got to go to college. But, you know, on the emotional, psychological, and feeling safe side of things, not at all. So being able to kind of go into this kind of blissful state was really nice. And it was mostly just sitting and breathing. However, where was I going? The blissful. Oh, yeah, this is the third line, is that there was just doing meditation, which I just enjoyed doing it.
Yeah.
And there was the side that I thought, well, I'll find some magical cure for my disease, which I think a lot of people go through, but I stuck to it for a while. I was devoted. I was like, they just didn't look hard enough.
And that one's really interesting for us because I don't think there was ever a point where I was like even hopeful for a cure. I wanted a name.
Okay.
I wanted a name more than I wanted anything else ever.
I remember the first time I was like, we're going to look at what the problem is. It was like, maybe there is a cure, was a thought.
Well, yeah, like
Like, if we identify
Once you have a
it.
name.
Right. And then I was researching, like, things that it could be. And I was very quickly like,
Oh, no.
learning that it was like it
Right.
was complicated.
exactly.
And I think I had probably gone through that same process of like these symptoms are really weird and complicated and none of them are connecting to one another and I feel fucking crazy.
Okay.
But yeah, for us, I think it was really a fight and deep desire for the name because the name is what brought us some kind of peace, some
Okay.
kind of validation, I guess.
Yeah, I learned about the name very quickly of my disease. So I don't, that's not, I mean, I think that's a part of the issue for people with type 2. And I've heard of some people with type 1. I don't know how on earth they were alive. I really don't understand how they lived for, I mean, even a few months once it becomes, like, once it's actively part of your body.
Yeah.
Once the body's like, no more insulin for you, my friend.
What's
Sorry.
that?
Yeah. In case you don't know what insulin is. It is a hormone that your pancreas creates in the islets of Langerhorn in the beta cells of your pancreas. And it is what your body uses to get the sweetness in your blood, the glucose, which is what every carbohydrate you ever eat becomes just about. It's what takes it from in the blood to into the cell. Otherwise, the cell dies. So, pretty important. If you've ever heard that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, the fuel for that powerhouse mostly is oxygen and glucose. So I wasn't getting one of those, but I was real into getting the other because of all that breathing. So I was like, oh man, I'm never gonna be great at this one. I'm gonna be the
I'm gonna
best
be
at the
awesome
other.
at breathing.
No one's gonna breathe like this dude breathes. People are like, man,
I'm
he
gonna breathe like
breathes.
they've never breathed before.
I got them thick
Pioneers.
lungs.
Never skip lung day.
Never skip lung day. Yeah, you want them. You don't want them bird lungs.
Right.
Those them little
Skinny
scrawny
little things. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you got
Looking like a kidney. Oh my god, this is
long day at the
devolving.
gym.
Uh,
But
just sitting in a gym, like,
got
just
this.
Wim Hof in it.
You got this, bro. You got this. 10 more. 10 more.
Yeah. Have y'all ever heard of Wim Hof?
Yeah.
He's about breathing.
Yeah.
He's
what?
into
What?
it.
What?
Wim Hof, the Iceman. He did a couple of
yes.
world
Okay,
records.
Yeah.
The only thing that frustrates me, I like Wim Hof. I bought his stuff because I wanted to see how he explained it. The only thing that frustrates me is that I wish, and I think he has now. So this is not a burn against him now, but at the very beginning, I wish he had given a little bit more credit to the technique he's doing. That's from the Himalayan mountains and the Buddhist tradition.
Right.
So I wish he had mentioned the other names for it, like Tumo. Like, that would have been cool. But I'm happy that he made it popular at all.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
people
Like, it
realizing
got out there, yeah.
how much control you can have over, like, your basic body conditions from breathing.
Yeah.
Making that popular in and of itself. And he didn't do it in a way where he softened it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem for me, is that tons and tons of meditation traditions in the West have been either softened or made marketable or made easier to the degree that they don't give the benefits that I was seeing.
Right.
People
Well,
don't
and that's like that grit and the rigor to it is like
Yes.
all of these practices that we have are like beginning level, right? But then we're not, it's
Yeah.
introductory.
We're only ever given the first
yeah,
few steps.
it's introductory, and then it doesn't go beyond introductory.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, yeah, if you lift 5 pounds at the gym every day for every day,
you will get stronger at something, lifting 5 pounds.
Yeah.
but that's
But, you know,
you're gonna be really good at lifting 5 pounds. Good job.
there are ways to get muscled by lifting
Well,
light weight.
yes,
But you have to change
but-
other things.
Yeah, you have
can't
to
do the
change-
same. It has
yeah.
to be like intensity or speed or something. You have to do something different.
Or position.
Or position, yeah,
all
to
of
hit
the things,
different
yeah.
muscles.
Yeah.
The,
No, I'm really curious about, like, I don't even know how to put this. Like, your thoughts on, because you're very connected, maybe is the word, on our blatant disconnection from the body. Like, we reject
Oh, yeah,
the body as a whole. Like, it's not...
So I have a weird position on that.
Okay.
It comes
I'm
off
super
one way.
curious. Like,
There's one more thing I want to say about the
Yeah,
journey.
yeah. No, you're
and
good.
then that's a good
Yeah.
idea. Is that so the Taoism progressed to me just being interested. Okay, what are the other traditions? Taoism that I was studying was very influenced by what is called Chan Buddhism, which often people are less familiar with, but it became Zen Buddhism, which people are very familiar with.
Yeah.
But Chan was more or less the Chinese name for Zen. And Chan and Zen are their words for what in the Pali Canon, or which is often just associated with Theravada Buddhism, which has a weird reputation over here, because of nationalism
oh, good.
between a lot of countries in the East. Lots of people don't know there's lots of different Buddhisms even,
Right.
but they have radically different teachings sometimes.
Yeah.
And so both of those names are to something called jhana. And jhana means concentration or absorption. And the interesting thing about jhana is it brings a type of pleasure that isn't associated with sensuality. It's not really your 5 senses. it's the awareness of form
Okay.
by itself. What is it? How? Without greed or distress in regards to the world or the past or future.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was accidentally getting into jhanic states. And so after Taoism, I started looking at Tibetan Buddhism or Vajrayana, which is way more magic than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you get real into it, you will find out there's a lot of visualization of certain gods doing stuff in your body. Like you visualize your body as essentially a heaven, kind of. I didn't get super deep into it because I'd already looked into Greco-Egyptian mysticism, and that's pretty similar. And I was like, yeah, I've tried that. But there's a lot of great stuff there, and it's incredible at how well they've kept their tradition alive after all they've dealt with in Tibet. So after that, I wanted to look at I love source texts. I love primary sources. In history class, when I was a little kid, and they said, the best thing to read is always the primary source.
Yeah.
I took it really seriously.
You took it to heart.
I was like, okay, so the only thing I'll trust is...
the very first one.
Yeah, so I got really kind of weird about commentaries and wanting to read.
That's how I feel about Christianity, just as a whole. I'm like, your whole religion is based off mistranslations.
Well, the interesting thing is how few actually there is research from seminaries about how few people have read the Bible, even preachers sometimes. And I think I've known a lot of Christians who I've really, really liked, but the big difference has more or less is how that I've been able to narrow it down to is how strictly do they hold themselves to the standards in the Sermon on the Mount. Strangely, that one seems to keep a lot of the pitfalls, a lot of the easy distractions, like the prosperity gospel, which is distinctly anti-Christian. Like, Jesus was a homeless person.
Yeah.
People begged him to stay places longer than 3 nights, and he was like, no.
I got
Stuff to do.
Yeah, he had stuff to go do. Sorry, I have to
People
go
to
eat
meet.
nothing in the desert.
Yeah.
Like, that's not someone who's like, oh, yes, God loves me, so I'm rich.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so there's some things where you can tell, like, this is being taken, someone's being taken advantage of.
Right.
But there's also
absolutely.
people who seem, that is the context they grew up in. They like being a good person. It feels good to be a good person, and that's great.
Right.
It's just our culture kind of has some weirdness with altruism.
A bit.
Just a touch.
Yeah.
And so I eventually made my way to translators, because I like reading translators if I read a commentary at all. Translators of the Pali Canon. One of the major reasons is I found out they published almost everything for free.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Because in their canon, that's listed as a requirement.
Right.
If you teach the Buddha's Dhamma, his doctrine, you have to do it for free, or you are not teaching it.
Yeah.
And so they take that they take the monk's rules very seriously, whereas other traditions don't always do that. It's here and there that they take the rules seriously.
Yeah.
I actually recently finished a 3-year effort to get a hold of the Dalai Lama's description of the monk's rules.
Shit.
Which is very hard to get unless you're ordained by the Dalai Lama.
Right.
But there was one copy in the country that I could get a hold of by using interlibrary loan. And so now I have it. I'm like, I'm going to be such a problem for some monk someday. Because they're not allowed to do financial exchange.
Right.
They're not allowed to even touch money. So if you see one at a coffee store, they're only doing part of it. But they're probably still doing pretty good. If they're wearing the robes, they're making some level of effort.
Yeah.
But I got real into very, very early Buddhism, pre-Abhidharma, which is the first set of commentaries on the texts and the discourses. And in those early texts, I found step-by-step descriptions of experiences I had of meditations I had done
Oh wow.
when I was a teenager, and I wasn't talking to anyone. I wasn't reading much. I had read a little bit,
Yeah.
but I wasn't reading much.
Right.
And so it was just fascinating to see, okay, so that was legit. And that was very strange. I did something that's why nobody knows what I mean.
Right.
One of them was I broke down language until I didn't know language anymore. And that was very weird. Because then I had to go to the next class.
Right. And
And,
then
like,
you're like,
On my way there, I was like, what does the mean? What does the mean? And then I figured that out. And I was like, okay. I've got it enough to make it through math class. And it like slid, and I like brought it back. But it was weird because it wasn't like I accidentally did that.
yeah.
It wasn't something, I wasn't taking anything. I was straight edge.
Right.
I just very carefully observed in my mind how I understood sentences, then words, then sounds, then syllables, and then I
Right.
lost it all. It was very peaceful. It's very nice. Because all the language in your head disappears too.
Yeah.
You don't understand it either. It's like listening to a rushing river. What? I want to know. You have so much. You have so much.
I'm literally I'm like, this sounds really fucking familiar. And apparently this is just like, I'm going to go back to the instinct piece where your brain's just like, let's see how far we can hack our own brain today.
Oh, yeah. Well, that...
And I'm like, well, shit. I think maybe I've done some of these things.
Well, I have noticed this is something I actually had a long conversation about dissociation with someone, about how dissociation works. And I think there are positive and negative versions of it.
Yeah.
Because when I've talked to people about like certain
Because
certain intense stuff.
visualization is essentially maladaptive daydreaming put to purpose.
Oh, yeah. I
That's
guess
what
so.
that is. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, all
I
of
was
these
just
things
sitting
are like,
around.
this is what you're... I think it just opens doors for different kinds of development based on what opportunities for entertainment you have. So as children, there were a lot of times where it was like, I don't want to hear you anywhere in the house at all, ever.
Okay.
And so it was always very, like, go do something quiet in your own
So I
room.
was just sent to a different wing. I'm joking.
But
We didn't have wings. Didn't have wings. It's a joke.
It was like quiet time every day from whenever
I
to
remember.
whenever.
Yep.
And we were just left to our own devices for a long time.
Yep.
For a long time.
Okay.
And so, yeah, maladaptive daydreaming was like the first of it. And then other pieces kind of follow. It's just interesting, like, how the brain's like, we'll just do this now.
Well, mental.
Here we
to me,
go.
it's all mental training,
Mm-hmm.
and we do some of it ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in a challenging situation, you have to find some way to survive it.
Mm-hmm.
The mind has to find a way to survive it too.
Yeah.
Your body needs rest. Your mind needs
Oh, yeah.
rest. What is it? It's not as good if I don't know his name. Oh well. A really accomplished sleep scientist once said that, as far as we know, people sleep because they get sleepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, other than that, we don't know why. The body can produce all these things while you're conscious.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually one of the first researchers on meditation in the West fibbed a little and claimed to be doing cardiology research.
Oh.
He was a cardiologist.
Right.
So he was legit. He was an actual cardiologist. But he fibbed a little bit. Why? We're just studying, different ways to help the heart. And they all happen to be meditation.
Interesting.
And the book is actually recommended by one of the previous Surgeon Generals.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how I got my mom to take meditation seriously.
There
Because
you
the
go.
Surgeon General said it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, that's a legit source. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, your son doing it for years, not enough. And it's called the relaxation response.
Yeah.
And you may have heard like that term, or the rest and relaxation
Yeah.
response.
Yeah.
It's associated with the vagus nerve.
Mm-hmm.
But what he found was, other than pretty much one chemical in the body, you could get all the production from meditation, which is fascinating. I love my sleep, so I have no intention of ever testing that.
That's
Right.
But
yeah.
It is fascinating. There's like one thing that you needed sleep. But he also found your body went into almost the same state of sleep after 10 minutes
Wow.
of breath meditation. And he was using an ultra simple one because he didn't want to get caught.
Right.
He didn't want people to know what he was doing. He wanted
like
to keep getting that
EMDR.
grant money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm?
EMDR.
Similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one with where everyone got tennis elbow, right? They do it with a light now.
So I did it with buzzers. So I had to like,
But it's rhythmically.
yeah, and they
yeah.
vibrate. Okay. They vibrate at different speeds and tempos.
Oh,
so you set it
fascinating.
your own, like your own
Okay.
self. So
Yeah.
And then you
I go
think of
pretty quick.
traumatic things.
Yeah.
Or
And
someone
then
guides you through them.
you
Yeah,
like,
too.
yeah, and then they guide you through. And
Okay.
then
Did I already take
like-
magnets and put them in my pocket or not?
ta-ta.
I just don't want to accidentally steal magnets.
No, you're good. There's
I have
3
a
steps.
tendency.
Yeah.
It's not kleptomania.
No,
It's just
checked.
kleptomania.
I checked with a therapist. It's
That's
just kleptomania. No, it's the last therapist I had. This is the best compliment I may have ever gotten because it came from a therapist.
Right.
Was that I was the brightest, darkest person they knew. And I was like, what exactly does that mean?
Yeah.
And they're like,
what does
that mean
to you?
you're very dark in your worldview. Because I had just told her that the way I say goodbye to my cat is by saying, you know, I really enjoyed knowing you. I hope that you're alive when I get back. But
Right.
if you're not, it's been great. And it's like, reincarnate and I'll teach you how to meditate. Tell my cat that all the time. I'm like, you better reincarnate where I can teach you to meditate. If I outlive you. But but you know, from a therapist
Right.
telling you you're the darkest person they know. That's the inner goth child
Right.
There you go.
cried tears
Yeah.
of blood. I was like, oof, I'm gonna cherish this
MCR
forever.
starts playing in the
Yeah,
background.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
I was going to the Black Parade. But where was I going with all that? So that I don't know where I was going.
So you were telling us the third path, and then we
Oh,
were
the third
talking
path.
about
So I
view
got-
on self and body.
Yes. So I got to the point where I was like, okay, I want to learn a lot about this, and there's a ton of it for free. And I was having a hard time with the isolation during COVID, because I'd moved to a new place. I think if I had been if I had been in Alabama, I would probably have just died. But because everyone was getting COVID there, no one was doing
that's
anything
true.
right.
I was like, I had to think about that, and was like,
Yeah.
oh no.
I
Yeah.
left at the right time.
Hmm.
And then, you know, they had buses in my hometown to go to the rally in DC
Yeah.
on Jan 6th.
No.
So just to avoid anyone who feels strongly about that, I won't say more. But so I'm glad I wasn't there for all that. And I got real into studying that, learning more about it, learning about that translator who it turns out so in early Buddhism, there isn't a big distinction between the monks and the lay people, which is unique.
Yeah.
The lay people are supposed to keep the monks in line. The monks are supposed to show lay people just how much you can do. You can get really far at this. You can do it. And that's kind of the relationship between the two groups. And there's a middle group, too, of people who take less vows than the monks, but are pretty close to being monks. And they do a lot for the monks on the monastery. That's kind of their
Right.
job.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is neat. Because, like,
I like
monks
that.
can't, like, cut a living plant.
Right.
Monks can't dig in the ground unless someone else has started digging first. And I think
Right.
certain stuff like that. They have I think 200 something rules
Wow.
that they have to try and follow. All the rules in Buddhism are not unlike commandments. They're all more or less suggestions. The Buddha was like, well, look, I looked at how everybody reincarnates, and if you do these things, there's never good results.
Right.
And so it's like, so if you want to avoid a bad future, here's 5 things lay people don't need to ever do intentionally. And that's a fascinating distinction, is that it has to be intentional.
Yeah.
Like if you accidentally hit a squirrel with your car,
Right.
you didn't break the precept against killing. You just feel real bad.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, but if you got out in your car and you're like, I'm going to kill someone with this, then you did.
Yeah.
Which is kind of an interesting distinction.
Yeah.
Because, what's accidental manslaughter at that point? Because that wouldn't technically be breaking the rule.
Right.
Which is fascinating. Because the point is your intentions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very
and I like
interesting
to
approach.
kind of think of life. We've talked about this a little bit. Like I have a very loose idea of I don't even know, because I don't have anything hard, like anything tangible to hold on to as far as like a belief system goes. But I prefer to think of life as like what am I trying to teach myself here?
Okay.
What am I supposed to learn from this ridiculous, horrible situation that's happening currently? Because either way it's happening. I'm not going to change the fact that it's happening. I could react really poorly, or we could like maybe reflect and try to learn something from it.
Yeah, see what is there to learn about it. Yeah.
Right. I'm like, what is this?
Right.
What lesson is this? Because this is bullshit. How do I not do this again?
So I'm pretty obsessive about that. Of like, what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? I told a friend once that anything that gets in the way of learning, I'd just cut it out. People, things, jobs if it stops me from learning, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the core thing to me is learning. But I also refuse to learn from bad teachers, which causes you a lot of trouble in high school.
People.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, some
Most
people are willing to make the
students.
grades. Some people are willing to make the grades. And I remember a
grades
teacher
do
once
not
told
always
me.
reflect learning, and grades
That's
rarely
true.
reflect learning.
Yeah, one
Just
professor
engagement.
asked me why I did so bad on the test because I was the only person in class who would talk about the subject.
Right.
So I clearly understood it.
Yeah.
And I told her, I only study to learn. She did not like that. So I will get to your question.
Okay.
Since I've been
Well, because I was going to say,
going on and on and on.
the other piece of that, like, just kind of loosely held belief system, is that whatever happens, and like, I don't know. I'm big on decisions make themselves when we have enough data. So when I have enough information, the decisions tend to make themselves. And so I don't know.
I'd agree with that, but I don't.
I'm
don't
obsessive
think it's a
about
great way to do it.
control. Ow. Just
See,
kidding.
The universe is punishing her
Ow.
with her past actions.
That's not nice.
Oh,
Karen, get a grip. Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was saying. I was quickly shut down by my body being a jerk.
You were talking about decisions making themselves.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah.
So what happens, and either it will be fine or it won't be fine, and either way we move forward because time doesn't stop for
Okay, yeah.
like time doesn't stop for us.
No.
So either like you could try to hold on to this water that's flowing all around you, but it's going that way either way. Like stop. Let go of the log in the way and like let's just move.
Okay.
I don't like to be stagnant.
So one of the express descriptions of like jhanic meditation. So nowadays what I do is jhana. I just practice it directly. It's fantastic. Like people have been asking me like, how are you? I'm like, I'm great. My life's falling apart. Maybe I'll figure out a way to pay for things at some point.
Yeah.
And they're like, why are you fantastic? I was like, oh, everything I enjoy is free and inside and no one can take it ever again. Mm-hmm. So it's great. But that's my plug for jhana. How does that relate to the body? Could you restate your question just so that I have it?
So the initial question was on like how we tend to reject the body.
Okay.
So the body we do not associate with self.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't
It's
either.
a separate
Okay.
thing. We're like, yeah, and fuck you.
I don't quite feel that way about
My shoe is a rock in my shoe. That's my whole shoe is just
That's
the rock
the
in my shoe.
experience. So
It's not a very nice shoe.
I would say my position on that at this point is probably informed by early Buddhism and Taoism. So there's actually a type of meditation called, I believe it's called the foulness of the body.
Really?
Yeah. Look, she's like, oh man, maybe I can meditate. I'm about it.
I'm curious.
And there's a chant associated with it where there's this one line, and I'm trying to learn some Pali so that I can say kind of whether I feel it says this or not, because it isn't the way it's translated.
Okay.
But as far as I can tell, it's pretty close to this too. And instead they say, from head to toe, from toe to head, covered with skin, or surrounded by skin, filled with unclean things. And I think the word unclean, I think the word that's being translated could also be referred to as this meeting place of suffering. And
I like that.
Yeah. And the meditation is you name it. Traditionally, it's the 32 parts of the body. It's just like skin, teeth, nails, hair of the head, hair of the body, and it's a list that actually comes from medicine of the day.
Yeah.
Those were all the parts of the body that doctors checked to see if it had a disease.
Interesting. Okay.
And so they're all the parts of the body that could lead to pain.
So it's essentially
suffering.
this meeting place of bodily ailment.
Yeah, it's the places that have the potential to make the body shitty.
That's funny.
And surprisingly, you can meditate on that to the point that you go into a rather blissful state.
So I can call Karen an asshole until I'm happy again.
Well, I don't know about that part. I don't know
But I
about
don't
that
take it
part.
to heart. It's not self-talk if it's not me. Right? Like,
It's
Karen
your
is
meat
her
Mac.
own
According to
thing.
the Buddha, those words aren't you either.
That could be.
Like,
We don't know.
Those would fall into the idea of verbal fabrication.
Okay.
That is, both your thoughts and the things you say are considered verbal fabrications. And so those get complicated. But there's this sorry, I keep feeling like I have a low blood sugar and then I don't, and I'm not sure why.
Because this room is hot.
Is that why?
It is very hot.
I don't know if that's it for me.
We actually might need to just...
But to try and find... Oh, no, it is dropping. I was right.
Must
But
do
it's
a
not
thing.
dangerous yet, so we'll wait. Well,
Oh,
I'll
but
wait
I'm
until it's in the
reckless.
range that you actually treat it, because I'm getting used to a healthier range.
I'm telling Roscoe.
Okay.
And it feels bad when you're in the healthier range.
He didn't hear
If
me.
you've been at the high. I heard you telling Roscoe. Roscoe won't bother me, but mine. Because I'll argue back. That's why.
He's ready.
He's ready. But I'm right. No.
Take you on.
My friends made memes for me where it's like that office meme about they only argue about something.
Mm-hmm.
They only argue when they know that they're right, and then they just they put me in the picture. Because I only argue when I'm real sure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. Which is why you always have to be careful. If I start arguing with you, I lost one. Like, I found it. Sorry to touch it with my feet. But it's I think that connection with the body is very useful, but it's also something that the thing that I think about the most is how attached people are to their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
How attached, because to them that's where they get the pleasant things in life from, has to come in some sort through their body. Because they don't well, they've either never known that there's other options, or they just, that's all they've ever done. Or I will say, I mean, it's a lot easier
Yeah.
to go and just eat a cheeseburger than it is to sit and until you develop the skill.
Yeah.
Once you've developed the skill of, like, you know, just breathing, and it's like, oh, I've gotten to the point where I can breathe and it feels so good, I don't want to think about anything else.
Yeah.
And that progresses. That's the first stage of it
Yeah.
working. That's not the, like, end stage of, like, what it can get to. So it gets real trippy eventually. Like, was it the perception of infinite space? That's nice.
Yeah.
Because that when your body just disappears, there's just space.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I see why that would be nice.
I was like, well, I was trying to remember what was what. 'Cause my brain likes to pull things up only in context.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I know what that is. I don't know why I know what it is or where that came from. There it is.
And it actually and that develops more. That goes into the perception of infinite consciousness. Because if you're aware of infinite space, you must be conscious of it too.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can let go of space entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the perception of nothingness? It's not much to say. It's nice, but there's not much to say about
Right.
nothing. And then it gets even less you can say. Was it the perception? Oh no. The state of neither perception nor non-perception. And there's nothing anyone can say about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's outside perception. And most of our communication involves communication about perceptions.
Right.
Yeah.
And interestingly, those are big in Buddhism, but they are not the goal. And they're real specific about that. That those are just another type of temporary pleasure that you will lose.
Yeah.
Even if it could exist for millions of years, you'd still lose it. And so that's interesting.
It all is. And I just I wish we could go on and on because I would love to pick your brain on, because I don't know. I have a hard time with identity too because I'm like,
The Buddha said
I'm
not
a
to ask.
verb.
Yeah, no.
I feel
No,
I am
that's
a
the
verb.
point.
Yeah.
No, that actually gets to the heart of what I liked about early Buddhism.
Okay.
Is that
I'm
the
not...
Buddha encouraged people, at least in this in these descriptions of it, to completely and totally let go of objectification. To instead think of as much as you could as actions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But most importantly,
like
with
the chairs
total
being a
responsibility
chair, it's
for
chairing.
them.
Yeah.
There is
Yes.
no other person responsible for your suffering or your stress or your dissatisfaction or your pleasure. There's other people who participate, but all
actually
of
what I
those
teach,
things come from the action itself, and you not only are responsible for them, but will be the recipient.
Yeah.
Hence the purpose of wanting to do more and more skillful actions, because then you have less and less terrible things that could happen in the future. If you don't plant bad seeds, bad trees won't grow. But you don't know what you planted before.
Yeah.
And so that's why, and in the early conception, it's an infinite. There's no beginning. He actually describes it as inconceivable, having been thousands of universes contracting and expanding, contracting and expanding. And us just dicking around that whole time.
Right. It's just
Until
a blip on the
eventually
radar.
some Buddha realizes how to get out of it, teaches people, and some people get out before it's lost again.
Yeah.
Which is an odd view to have for religion that talks about an eternal truth. To also say, no, this will be lost.
Yeah.
Definitely lost.
Like gone.
Which is kind of,
Well, it's a
that's
teaching
odd.
of a kind of acceptance and a kind of peace.
The Buddha said there is no happiness other than peace.
Yeah.
But he also said
But
the only way he
happiness
found
is
it by
in
was
and of
not
itself
accepting anything.
A sense. And that's what bothers me about people are
Not
like
this happiness.
wanting to achieve a state of happiness. And you're like, happiness itself is temporary, and then you have other things that come and they go.
The argument from Buddhism is that there is a happiness that is beyond that. That there is something that you can get to that has no cause. So you can't make it happen.
Yeah.
All you can do is develop the path that creates, and it really is the word develop. That's the word they used for meditation, was develop, in the same way that you would prepare a field for growing crops. It was the same word. And so the idea there is that if you develop the right conditions and you really take it seriously, and you don't, that's the thing, acceptance isn't actually a big part of Buddhism. It's a big part of one practice in Buddhism.
Well, I mean, acceptance of the whole temporary, everything is temporary.
That's
And we
also
talk
something
about
they don't
that.
accept.
That's fascinating to me.
The
'cause
whole
that's
point is
how
to find the thing that's outside that.
Wow.
interesting.
Yeah.
And then develop your ability to stay there instead of stay here.
Interesting.
Which doesn't take anything of here away other than the pain. That's the idea. That's the third noble truth is that the permanent cessation of dissatisfaction in any way, which apparently is a peace. It's just the Buddha had a bunch of names. When people say that like, oh, nirvana is like this real vague, no, it can't be described.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the Tao can't be described, but
Right.
that doesn't make it vague. That just means it's something outside.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually have to get moving, so we gotta like find
And I
a
gotta
stopping
treat
point and
my
stop.
diabetes.
Okay. Thank you for coming along. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that like editing won't be so painful.
No, this should be easy.
It'll be a
Okay.
longer one, but I think it'll be a really good one and worth the watch.
Yeah.
I have to uncross my legs, so I love you. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.